Well, thank you, Ian, for inviting me to share my ideas about degrowth and why we need to go down that direction. From the way I interpret economic degrowth or equitable economic degrowth is the fact that we need to do our accounting with regard to our ecological budget rather than our financial budget. The financial side of things is delusional. We print money. It doesn't actually reflect any reality of the natural resources available. So, switching to ecological accounting, we have to accept the fact that we're starting from a point where we're very much in debt. This phenomenon is called ecological overshoot, and it was defined back in the 1970s using a concept about of ecological footprint where you assess how much surface area you need to actually achieve any any activity, usually feeding yourself, but um, all our commercial enterprises have some need of natural resources. So the ecological footprint that we're using at the moment is exceeding the entire area biocapacity that's available on Earth. And the only reason why we're still carrying on, and a lot of people think we're doing fine, in fact, they think we're doing very well, is they're not taking into account the degradation in the surrounding environment that we're causing with this behavior. So, this is a very naive attitude, and it's been going on for a very long time. So, the when you suggest that we we should think every decision that we make really needs to be based on whether it's going to make the situation worse in ecological terms or not. So if we look at what we're doing with climate crisis, the whole concept of just switching our current economy to using um, what we call renewable energy doesn't really add up, because to make all the technology that is required for renewable energy requires a lot of ecological damage. And a guideline to how much damage that we're doing was provided in the 1970s with an equation that was arrived at by two environmental scientists, which basically identified three key drivers to the environmental damage that humanity causes. And they are the size of our population, the level of our affluence, and the extent to which we use technology. So any person can roughly assess their ecological footprint by considering their income and the amount of technology that they use. And within that bracket technology comes building. So if you're in a large house and you own a large amount of land, then you are in a very high footprint kit. Also, if you live in a country that has a very heavy duty infrastructure like the UK has, then that feeds into your personal footprint per capita because you share in the road um, maintenance, all of that. You you benefit from that infrastructure and from the health service and the education service and the social services. So that will all add to your personal ecological footprint. So even if you have no money in the bank, then you will still have a high foot because of the country where you live. Now, to shift from the mindset that we're used to, where we assess whether we can afford something according to how much money we've got in the bank, to instead to considering the level of ecological damage that we're likely to cause by that activity, that is a huge step in mindset. Very different mindset to the one that we teach in our schools, because the whole education system was put together to accelerate the Industrial Revolution. So a lot of what we teach is designed to help people to integrate into the frantic commercial structure that drives a growth economy. So you're taught to, if you're an entrepreneur and got a bright idea how to make money, that's applauded. And unfortunately, we now have billionaires who have done very well out of that system, but their success has been paid for with ecological damage. So, unfortunately, the people who are leading our civilization, our global civilization at the moment, are the people who've done the most ecological damage. Through no fault of their own. I mean, we have been voting them in. We don't have a political party that's suggesting anything other than economic growth. So we're very much caught in a trap of our own making, and we are complicit in supporting this mindset. Now, I put together a few slides just to recap and hopefully help the concept be grasped. I'm trying to remember how to share my screen. Okay, so, so this original image I got off the web. If you look up growth, if you look up the transition from fixed mindset to growth mindset, you'll see a lot of work about learning from mistakes and not thinking I know best, not giving up, and basically striving to do better. Now, to some extent, this concept will help us with degrowth. The one aspect of it where it falls down is the endurance and the perseverance side of it. Because what we're doing at the moment is persevering with a strategy that has been failing us for decades. So the question of whether we should change our focus entirely needs to be asked if we're going to change direction from growth to degrowth. And very few people are making that challenge at the moment. even within the degrowth movement, you will find they daren't call it degrowth. They'll call it things like well-being or beyond growth or post-growth, anything but admit that we need to shrink our economy. So the system of ecological overshoot was um, arrived at during the 1970s, together with this IPAT equation, where these two scientists concluded that population, affluence, and technology were all factors that have a negative impact on our environment, or at least the way that we're using them at the moment. These are all tools that we're using mentally at the moment. So back in the 1970s, our global population size was about half what it is today. And that at that point, we were fully exploiting all the biocapacity of Earth, leaving nothing for biodiversity at all. Well, if we need biodiversity in order for ourselves to survive and for biodiversity to flourish. We shouldn't be using any more than half the biocapacity that's available on Earth. So the whole concept of improving by persisting with the same model is very arrogant of us. And we are inclined, or many people are inclined to think that we're just too clever to fail. And that is a mistake that when people tell you, oh, AI is going to be doing all the work soon, I mean, that's ridiculous because the ecological cost of running AI systems is huge. Very unwise route to go, just handing over work to AI that could be done by humans, especially since there are so many of us. So it's insane to keep with a model that is clearly failing us. But it's from our comfort zone because that's all we've known. All of us were brought up with an education system that taught us to respect GDP growth and to believe that that was the only way forward, the only way we could achieve anything. So we're very stuck with that mindset because everybody believes it. Like I say, there's no political party that offers anything different. So there are a lot of possibilities that are well within our five senses that are beyond our imagination in this green area. We're just not thinking about um, the possibility of not trying to make money, trying to actually limit our commerce. It's not on the cards at the moment. And beyond that, there are things that are beyond our human perception. I'm detecting that in that ether, there's a collective anxiety and fear, and we're seeing it materialize in all sorts of ways. Xenophobia is one very worrying symptom. And so we're at a point at the moment where we can either become a very violent society and fight to the end over the remaining or what little remains of our ecological resources. So we have a great deal to be afraid of. And what we're seeing in Gaza is very much has the potential to turn into World War III. A lot of people are shifting their attitude and beginning to learn that maybe there's a different way forward. As I mentioned before, the movement, the beyond growth, post growth, and well-being, they are thinking, well, what are we going to do about it? And they're collaborating very peacefully. They're still not admitting that we need to shrink GDP, and that's where I come in. I mentioned the zone of interest. It's a film about it's situated in a concentration camp, but you never see the agony that the inmates of the concentration camp are going through. You just hear what's going on. And the film focuses on the everyday lives of the SS families who are running this concentration camp. And there's a strong analogy to what we're doing in the affluent nations as we're chugging along with business as usual and the causing horrendous suffering in Africa and other parts of the world that are really up against the changes in climate. And it's in unjust arrangement has been going on for decades. The result of colonialization has been to drag them into our very unhealthy commercial ambitions. So most African countries were compelled to start trading with us because they could grow our luxury goods like chocolate, cocoa, and coffee and tea that we coveted. So we forced them down the route of becoming acquisitive in the same way that we are. So I'm saying here that our zone of interest needs to open out beyond our country and our family. We have to care about what is happening on a global scale in order to embrace equitable degrowth. Once we start opening our mind to look at what's happening on the global scale, then we should want to maximize the mitigation. And that requires minimizing our consumption per capita, which is very different from growing GDP. And it involves reconnecting with nature as well, because we're so cocooned in our concrete boxes. That connection has been lost a long time ago. So thank you very much for listening. I hope there'll be some questions, hopefully.